Welcome to Hit Confirm, you guys. I am one half of this dropped combo, Casey, and joined with my host, Coach.
Well, what up, everybody? How you doing? Yeah, we're back at it again, and it's like we kind of touched on all the stuff that's been happening. It's a crazy world, but I guess
Yeah.
it's more or less more the same. So, what's on your mind, Casey?
Yeah. Uh, funny enough, drop combos. I wanted to talk about like execution. Um, I want to start off talking about me first. So I was like been playing DBFZ for a lot. I've always I wouldn't say I pride myself on my execution, but I'll say I have pretty decent execution. And I know a lot of people, even some intermediate players, have a hard time with execution. And so I'm just gonna go over like some things that like helped me over, still helps me over the years, things that I've like realized even like a couple of weeks ago that makes execution better for people that I've gone through, that I've seen other people like, it's a formula for them that works for them. So like I know a lot of people have like their own preferences. So that's one thing I want to get out the way, right? Is like one player might play on pad, another player might play on stick, and you have another player that plays on hitbox. Or you may have a player that plays on like, was it a wheel, like a Mario Kart wheel? That's like all
Yeah,
for execution, right?
yeah,
or comfortability at this comfortability, right?
yeah. At this point, yeah, more or less they all end up the same way. Like you got keyboard, and yeah, some of them have their slight advantages, but they all more or less meet at the same point as far as effectiveness.
Yeah. So that's like the most important part, like numero uno. Like you gotta make sure you're comfortable with what you're on. I don't care if you're playing on a pillow with a bunch of stick like stuff put inside of it. I would love to see that happen. By the way, if somebody can make a pillow stick, you can sleep like somehow still sleep on it. That'd be amazing. But anyway, um, yeah. So it's all about comfortability, making sure like you're in a space in a like you feel good about like what you're doing, regardless if like you're you're kind of I guess new to it. So for me, when I was playing like starting like deep fighting games, I would say I played on pad for like I would say right when I got into FGC, I played on pad for maybe like a year, and I was like, all right, I think I'm going to switch to stick. Switch to it pretty quickly. Uh, I almost questioned my investment because, well, when I bought it, I was like, is this like a thing I should get into, whatever. But then I realized I kind of played the pad on stick. But like different games offer like different execution requirements, which is very very cool. If and it helps a lot with your growth as a fighting game player. Um, so like it's okay if you just play one game, right? But and you main that. But I would like suggest dabbling in other games because it'll make you realize where your execution is at. You know?
Yeah, that's actually something that's helped me over the years. Cause like, especially when you started like on a newish game, and then you go
Mhm.
back, that's like the classic. Like, like not even just like the strictness of the directions, but like the input window might be a lot shorter and stuff like that. So yeah, it definitely helps when you start playing across games.
Yeah, and it helps you be less of a I guess an a hole too when you're able to cross over to different games because you're like, oh man, this game can't do this, blah 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 blah. You accept it more when you once you've like your ventures like into other games have been like I guess pretty vast and experienced. So you're like, all right, cool. I understand how this works with this game, so I don't have no complaints. So I can just kind of like put the pieces together a little bit easier.
Yeah, a lot less
So
work you
like,
got to do.
yeah, a lot less work. And that's like a key thing for a lot of players, right? Especially like if you're like when you watch top players go from one game to another, they for the most part they'll play games that are kind of eerie similar to each other. Like you might have Justin Wong. Like if a new game comes out, of course he's gonna play that, but like he'll most likely play like Street Fighter and Grand Blue, and kind of like go back and forth in those games because it's like the execution is not like too crazy. And then you have your players that are like, all right, I'm gonna play my versus games, go from like the Marvel to the Blaze Blue tag and DBFZ. So they have an easier time of transitioning. Um, KI is pretty interesting
Okay.
because it's its own beast in a sense. Uh, I've never played KI, but I've heard that it's not as complicated. It's not too complicated.
Yeah,
So
yeah. It's a lot more on the fly thinking rather than just like having like strict execution in your hands for the most part. So like, do I want to go into this? Do I want to go into that? When you're deciding like where combo breakers and stuff happen.
okay, so it's more of a thinking strategy with combos than actually performing like timing and complicated inputs.
Yeah, it's more or less. I would say like around Street Fighter 4 without having to worry about like all the strict links, but they're in there.
Okay. So all right, that's and then you have like Tekken or 3D games in general, which you have your level of 3D games where I know you could come in on this one with Virtual Fighter as being like considered one of the hardest 3D games to play because of its execution.
Oh man, we could have a whole nother show on that, and I'd probably and like I'm thinking right now in my mind's eye, I see Black Star's comment just like a full paragraph, but it's actually not. It's actually one of the easiest games you can play at all. Period.
Now, well, I kind of want to stop you there. Why do you say so? Like, try to put yourself in your. I didn't play um, Virtual Fighter shoes before. Kind of put that mindset where you didn't play Virtual Fighter and have like, what was your mindset before you played Virtual Fighter, and the mindset of the experience you got in Virtual Fighter now. Like, okay, I see why people say it's not as hard as it seems.
So yeah, like I guess you always see people saying, "Oh, it's the hardest game," and I never really bought into it because even before I played it, I was around Blackstar obviously, and I saw him play it, but I didn't really pay much mind to it until a little bit later. But once I got into it, I'm like, the hardest thing for me was just the transition from 2D to 3D, where I had to think about other things that I didn't have to consider before. But the
Hmm.
execution, like it's a 3 button game. There's a 10 frame buffer window, so it's not like most of the like there's actual hard stuff in it. Don't get me wrong, but that's like the frosting on the entire cake after you've made it. For the most part, you can do like all the damaging stuff, and it's fairly simple to do. Some of it there's a little bit of rope, inputs in there, and for some characters they might have some interesting things they can do. But for the most part, it's actually pretty simple. Like its simplicity is actually what makes it deep because it's more about interactions. Like this, like it's a, not getting too much into this because we're based on execution. But there's a triangle in the game. There's blocks beats strikes beat throws, and throws beat block, and that's where a lot of the depth comes from. Is how do you navigate around that triangle and some of the outliers around that. But the actual game, like execution wise, is actually very easy to do, and it's for some reason, since I guess not a lot of people play it in the modern era, it's gotten its
Right.
reputation as being like calculus or something when it's really like basic arithmetic as far as execution goes.
Okay. See, the reason why I asked you that question of like the experience of like, I guess, or explain why it has that certain stereotype of it being hard is because like now you have like the experience in it, you know that it's actually on on the surface it seems hard and what people have been saying, but actually playing a game and seeing where the execution lies, it's not. It doesn't seem like that game has like you say it has hard combos, but it doesn't for the most part. That's not like something that you have to kind of rely on.
Yeah, it's one of those things like once you've been playing for a while, you got your game plan down, you start throwing that in there. It's not like, well, if you can't do this, you can't even play this character, so don't think about it. Because, you have characters in games like that. You have like your Sea
Yeah.
Viper in Street Fighter 4, like, if you can't do these fierce faint fears, don't bother. You're not going to get much out of this character. You
And
know.
that's where. See, I'm glad you mentioned that because that's how I actually picked up Guilty Gear seriously. I remember I always like kind of messed around in Guilty Gear, even when as a casual. But I had two friends that would mess around with a character that was they considered pretty hard. Well, everybody considered pretty hard, even Japan. And I remember reading tons of like forums and stuff like that where people would literally just be saying, "Don't play this character if you can't do this one specific thing, because you won't even be considered decent." I was like, "Whoa!" And that was in the XX series. Um, However, like my friend, he would play her on the side whenever we would mess around and get to gear, and he dropped her, and like two of my friends dropped her, and I was like, dang, what is she really that hard? And then the classic, I watched a video of a good player use her and actually win with her, and I was like, whoa, the reward. Um, that's another thing about execution is like having a character that you can have a character that has like very very complicated like inputs and hard as hell timing on everything, but if you don't reap the rewards from it, then what's the point, right? At that point they're probably considered a low tier character, huh?
Yeah, maybe you actually make me think of Zato because it's like he could be on either side of the scale, right? But you still got to like learn all the little nuances and get that in your muscle memory. Learn how to negative edge, and for a lot of people, something like that is really unintuitive. And it's like, depending on the version of the game you're playing, he can either be massively rewarded or almost not rewarded at all, but for the same amount of work. It's actually pretty funny.
Yeah, I feel so sorry for all those auto players. Every time I win against this auto player with because it's such a hard matchup for him, I felt like I just felt so super bad for those auto players because of that reason. Whenever he's like at his weakest, but yeah, like so like watching like players like Koichi at the time, I was like, man, like I want to put in work in this character and figure out how to do this stuff. So it took me a long time. I want to say right up until the point where maybe almost when Exart was like announced, because I started playing, in Plus R, because me and the KSU guys, we would dabble around in Guilty Gear AC, and then we heard a Plus R came out, and then that's when I started messing around with But anyway, I was like, man, like you got to do like you have like one frame to do within 1 to 3 frames. You have to do like almost a 360 motion, then end in six again. Then you gotta like a pretzel motion and all that, and then dash at the same time, just for one like projectile cancel. But I was like, man, it's just seeing that damage after that satisfaction. So you go through all the steps. What's interesting is what execution in a game like Guilty Gear can teach you is not just like the character, but your opponent, the character that you're playing against. Not many other fighters have like you're almost required to do where your bread and butter is almost required to be a specific way on a character, and that's where like games like Guilty Gear comes in. I want to say the closest thing I can think of maybe Marvel. But that's if you want to like really, I guess, if you really want to get the most, literally the most out of a character, right? Can't think
Yeah.
of.
As far as like B and Bs, there was that concept existed in Street Fighter 4, where like certain characters had like wider hitboxes, or they reeled back too far, and so you had to like think about what you had to do on certain cast members. So like that concept always exists, but I feel like it is. I don't want to say a defining feature, but it is very prominent in games like Guilty Gear.
Yeah, it's very demanding. It's so that scares a lot of people, which is fine. But one thing I want to say though is like if something kind of like scares you in that aspect, give it a try. And when I mean give it a try, I mean like maybe at least a month. You don't even have to main the character, right? You could just like on the side every now and then when you play the game, when you're playing the game, either before you like play a match or after you about to turn the game off, go in trainer mode with that character that you're interested in doing execution executionally high stuff with. That's how kind of like how I always approach it. Um, you learn a lot uh, from, I guess, like because you get to see how different or where your limits lie in execution and how you can bring that up. Um, so what I would do in I would say in uh, Marvel, I will play multiple teams in even sometimes in tournament, but I'll play multiple teams in general in casuals. And it's like not even to be the best with the character or the teams or whatever. It's just to like get my hands like muscle memory conditioned to like play like all kinds of like styles and stuff like that. So that way when I do play a character in maybe a new fighting game, I can kind of get that identification and kind of reference, oh, this character feels like this, or this string or combo or this setup feels exactly like that. And it's very, very like that's in itself is satisfying.
Yeah, I know a lot of people who do stuff like that. I know for a bit, I got lazy about it, but I still do it now and then. Where like you see somebody post like a cool YouTube tech or Twitter tech, and you like, oh, let me try that. It might even be a game I don't even play that often, but I'll turn it on and like, let me try that, see how it works. Or a character in the game I'm actively playing, and I'll try whatever fancy combo somebody came out with just to see if I could do it. And and I was actually a big fan of like combo trials because of that. Like especially when they put like hard ones in, because I like even if they weren't practical, I wanted to see how, what the characters could do because it gives you ideas. It inspires a lot, and then yeah, it tests your execution. And I forgot the other thing I was gonna say. Oh yeah. So when you were saying, no, I actually forgot again.
That's
but
cool.
oh, man, I'm off of it today. But
No, you're never off. No one's ever off with it.
because
You're
like
good.
I started on this thought and I was like, let me roll back to the thing Casey said earlier, but then it dropped out of my mind. But basically, yeah, I agree with your point. Trying new things and like getting out of your comfort zone is like one of the bigger things. Because for me, it's something that I never really liked to do. That's why I like played Faust a lot. So I played Chun Li in Street Fighter 4, but I never learned leg loops because I'm like I want to do all that. I want to get to the anti-airs. I want basic ass damage. I want to get straight to what I want without having to do all that. And I realized that it kind of really held me back in a lot of ways, even for simple execution characters.
Yeah, and like we've talked about like getting out of your comfort zone before, but something I kind of want to bring up more so on this podcast is like, getting out of your comfort zone with what you're playing on. So what I mean by that is your like the way you I guess hold what like either a stick or pad or whatever, like trying that out because that can open your eyes. It's like you open your third eye actually at that point. That's how it feels like because you'll notice flaws in training mode. You'll see uh, what inputs you're getting consistently, and that helps a lot. So, for instance, when I would when I first was learning I say when I was playing Marvel, or I would hold the stick a certain way, and to get magnetic blast, I would kind of hold it kind of diagonal to my lap because most of the time I play on my lap. So I'll hold it a certain way to get my magnetic blast a little bit easier. Um, and that helps a lot. That shows you just how like where you need to get your execution, like where you need to train a little bit better on your execution at. Also it helps with just identifying things, right? In general. Like, oh shit, like this is how like the input feels when I actually get it consistently. It's almost like you're a different player. But the downside is when you're first learning it, or it's kind of hard to transition back to like your normal play style. So what it's interesting seeing people when they hit the deck because they're trying to get like certain inputs more consistently, like trying to be much more clean. Korean players they play on a desk. I recently found out that playing on a desk like helps me tremendously because I can hit the corners of a stick a lot easier when I'm playing on a desk. It feels like I'm playing on an arcade, honestly.
Yeah, I remember back at Evo, like a lot of the Korean players who came up, they'd bring like the tables they had up there.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
And,
it's.
and
Oh, go ahead.
I didn't think too much of it when I first saw it, but then when you start doing it yourself, you're like, wait a minute, because in Dragon Ball, I my like combos are, I would say like 50, 60%, but when I play on a desk, they're like 90%. I'm like, whoa, I get these all the time, and it's only because I'm able to hit the corner a little bit easier.
Yeah, it kind of goes back to what you were saying, like towards the beginning, like it's like getting into a comfortable state
Hmm.
where you can feel like it's most natural. And like funny enough, when you mentioned the grip thing, that's something I started experimenting on like the end of last year, because I used to use a side grip on my stick, and I switched to a wine glass, and I realized I got more accuracy on the wine glass, but I was a little slower. But it made me start thinking about how I was doing my
I'm sorry, you
combos.
said accuracy, but a wine glass a little slower. I'm sorry, I was just thinking like a tipsy mind, but a
No, no,
wine
no, man, a wine glass
glass.
where you put it in between your two fingers, two middle fingers.
Oh
It's,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah. I get
yeah,
that.
yeah. And yeah, actually, because I've been mentioning this on stream or on the show a bit when I say I was messing with Johnny, and like that's one of the big things I started noticing is that when I was going for the dust combos in the corner and I had to miss final cancel, I would always hit the button at down back instead of back. Even though I would
Mm.
hit the back input, I would stop it down. I would always hit the button because I was so slow in how I was doing it. So like I had to sit down and like, because you were mentioning it earlier, trying like, how you have to build your execution. So it's like I'm sitting here doing this, and I was like, man, I can't get this combo out. So I go on, turn on the inputs. Well, I always have my inputs on,
Mm.
and I stop and I look at it, and I see it down back, and I see the button, and I do it again, and I just realized like I stopped thinking about it, and it's like, okay, slow down, because like that's my biggest thing. And I realized that no matter how fast combos look, a lot of times you can almost always slow it down in your mind, and it works out
Yeah.
much better. And I started trying to build the accuracy and stop paying attention to the stuff on the screen, because that was always getting me too. Like when I see it drop, I would get frustrated, and I would I hate execution. But then I was like, you know what? I'm gonna follow through with this execution anyway, even if I'm too slow and it doesn't work. I'm gonna at least get the right input. And then as I got better at hitting the dust. Miss Final Cancel S dust, Miss Final Cancel dust, and hitting the Y hander. I was like, okay, so that was so intimidating me at the start. Like it's probably something very simple for most gear players, but for me
Right.
it was like it was a mountain, because I didn't like doing that kind of stuff. That because I really wanted to play Johnny when he came out, but I was like, I don't want to do that. I don't want to do any of that. And like nowadays, like I'm a lot more patient, maybe because there's no competition and I'm mostly at home. So I'm like, let me just challenge myself. I'm like playing characters I would never play. I'm trying to do combos I'd never do. Like I was messing with a good bit of Zato, but yeah, like if you were intimidated by execution like I was, here's from my point of view. Sit down and pick a character whose execution you might find somewhat intimidating, and just do the beginning of the combo over and over again. Even if it's something like button special, just do it over and over again until it's just in your hands, and then go into the next part of it, the button special, and then whatever the next part is, and then just break it down in little pieces and then build it up. That's the best way to do it. And I know there was an article on SRK about this years ago called it like chunking, but yeah, put it in little pieces. You don't have to like pull the combo list in front of you and do the whole thing. And the other thing this actually helps you with, outside of just building your execution, it helps you really think about the logic of why the combo is working. Like,
Hmm.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I'm hitting this on a later frame, or I'm canceling this on an earlier frame, but I got to cancel this on a later frame, or the reason why it juggles is because I hit them at the tip instead of at in the middle of this move, stuff like that. And then the next step for that is when you get like an impromptu hit, you go, oh, that's similar to the juggle I do in this combo, so I can convert it the same way. Oh, all the pieces start coming together, so it's like a cool thing. Like take it apart, put it together. You ain't gotta like tackle the combo all at once, especially if you're intimidated by execution.
Yeah. If you break down and I totally agree 100%, because if you break down a combo bit by bit, what that does, it helps you understand not just the character and his movesets, but the game mechanics a little bit more. It helps you understand like the hit stun, how it works, the like the how the damage scaling, how that works is very, very, very interesting. So like that's why you see some players. That's how you have the difference of styles with characters, because people people can see one player can see a character and it's like, all right, cool, they broke it down. They understand how this combo works that way. But at the same time, another player is doing a different combo only because the way they approach the character is different. So what they're doing is they're going to do this starter so that way they can get you closer to the corner or something like that, or get a better knockdown. Versus this other player, they're doing this starter because they want like more damage. They understand like how the normals. They both understand how the normals and the moves work. They both, that's where they connect. These two players connect. But just in having that alone, that understanding of like your normals and like how the character's attacks work in general, can open up like a whole new mindset for things.
Agreed.
Um, for Marvel, funny enough, I was talking to a friend, Sean HBH Hollaback. Probably know him. He plays KOF. Um, I was talking to him and I told him Marvel. Funny enough, it's good, but it's also a game that doesn't really teach you. It teaches you how to execution, but carrying it into other fighting games, it doesn't work. What Marvel is good at doing though once you find a character, like once you get a combo down, right? Say for instance how you said with Johnny. What's helped me in a lot of other Marvel players transition to other fighting games is the rhythm. Most people still don't understand that, like what they mean by like having a rhythm in a fighting game, like when you're doing a combo. So like once you finally get a combo down, you can have different routes, and to help you like do those different routes, especially in high tense situations, is finding that rhythm. And the way you get that rhythm is repetition over and over again. You listen to music or something in training mode, get it over and over again. So that way it becomes like almost a second nature. So like when you're playing in tournament, you hit this hard ass combo that you've been doing in training mode, that you've been practicing. You're not even thinking about it. Now you're thinking about more so the situation, because you got the rhythm down. You're just doing it, bam, and that also helps you. It helps uh, take away the nerves and stuff. So there's so much to like that rhythm can do with characters when learning a character's combos and their routes.
And that's like what you said actually like resonated with me quite a bit. Like you said, yeah, I don't have to worry about it because I feel like that's what. Because when you see somebody play and they don't have like strong execution or they don't know their safe jump setups or whatever, right? You
Hmm.
start seeing they start playing a lot more timid because they like even if I hit the opponent, it ain't gonna work. And so they start focusing on not getting hit by an opponent, especially if the opponent, on the other hand, on contrary, shows that they can hit confirm, they can, convert straight hits, they know their safe jump setups, so they start getting really afraid of getting hit. And then they start getting afraid of taking the offense because I'm gonna drop it anyway. And you see it even on a subconscious level, it affects on how they make their decisions. Because it's like if I know that Casey's gonna hit me with this move and he's gonna turn it into a full screen carry and a 50% life, I start getting intimidated about how and where I want to move, even though I have good options there. And so like you can see that play out in people's decisions. So that's something I always thought was cool. But one thing I actually want
Yeah.
to revisit, is something the thing I was talking about earlier that I forgot when I was had a mind drop there. But
Mind drop combo.
yeah, 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 yeah. When you were talking about comfort level, like sitting at home, finding out your way to doing things, there's actually something that's interesting. That I always think about. If you play offline, right? You never know what kind of chair you're gonna be sitting on. You never know, how close the person's gonna be to you. You never know how like people are gonna be behind you. If the chair's gonna slope down or slope up, and then what you need to do is get used to, getting a like you said a rhythm on any setup you go to. Like find out what makes you comfortable like on a temporary basis. Like if you go to some offline tournament and it's like a wooden chair and it feels uncomfortable or it has arms or something, you need to sit down, play some casuals, and figure out your new comfort zone. Always do that because stuff like that. Because like I have a chair that slopes kind of down, so my execution always kind of plays to that, and I never thought about it until I started really going into offline tournaments, or if I got a new stick, and I would be like, this doesn't feel right because I would always like have to pull my stick back up, or I would be sloped in a weird way. So like, I always think about those things because like the way you physically feel can play out a lot of how your execution will work, whether you're at home or somewhere else.
Oh no, I totally agree. When I was going to tournaments, the thing that I'll do to help kick my nerves off, as soon as I sit down and I'm about to play the other player, and we're like either in training mode or anything, I use every second I get to like feel the situation or whatever area I'm sitting in. So what I'll tell myself is, as I'm playing, I'm like, make myself at home, make myself right home, make myself at home, and that's like what's constantly going through my head. Like just make myself at home, as if I'm like when people you go to their house and then you're like you're nervous, you don't want to get nothing to eat, and they're like, man, you go in our refrigerator, make yourself at home. That's exactly what goes through my mind when I'm sitting down and I'm playing, doing like execution and stuff like that, and I'm nervous.
Yeah, that's a
I
pretty
just
cool
make
way of
myself at
thinking
home.
about it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like that. I like that.
So when it's time, I'm like, okay, all my nerves are like pretty much gone, and it's funny because there are players that will like destroy me in casuals, and then tournament comes in and it's like I'm like a different player. So yeah, that helps a lot. Also, you see a lot of top players, they'll take their time sitting at a setup. They're like just sitting. Mainly one big reason is because maybe the streamer is not ready or whatever. But
Yeah.
for the most part, the top players are like literally trying to get a fill out. Chris G is known for this, and I respect him a lot for this because he'll go to a setup and be in training mode on the stage for maybe a good 2 minutes or 3 minutes at max. He'll just be in training mode trying to do all his execution. And what's funny is whenever you hear a lot of players who every now and then make a top 8, and they'll be like, man, the number one complaint I always hear from these kind of players is like, man, that setup was like kind of laggy, man.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you ask the other guy who like either was more consistent in top 8, and they're like, oh, they didn't really have too much of a problem. They agree that the setup was laggy, but they'll be like, you know what? I just sat there and I took my time so I can get used of it, and that's what you have to do.
Yeah, that's actually something I would always tell people. Well, I wouldn't always tell. I would tell a few people that when you sit down on a setup, just go ahead and do the button check. Not just because even if the game has map buttons, check the monitor, check how it feels,
Hmm.
and check your own comfort level sitting out there. Like all the stuff I was mentioning earlier. Like just sit down and practice a little bit, move around, and say, okay, this feels right. This feels responsive, or I need to adjust a little bit right here. Get a feel for it. So button check isn't just about the button, but just about overall checking how you feel. And plus, your stick might not be working.
I can't tell you how many stories I've actually yeah, that happens too. Um, there are a couple of stories I've heard where people like one player was like, man, like my move didn't come out when I was in training mode, or my specific combo or whatever wasn't working, so it kind of made me nervous. And then the other player who played and won was like, well, my combo wasn't working, blah blah blah, so I went for the easy stuff.
Yeah.
they know they knew how to keep it simple in that type of like environment, basically.
So let me hit the switch and turn the track a different direction for a bit. Keep it on
Hmm.
execution, but we've been talking about like a lot about combos and stuff. But there's another aspect of execution I feel like people don't ever really practice. That is actual punishes. And I don't mean like the punish combo, but like where you like if it's a block string and you can jump out and punish, or if it's one of those games that have a small buffer window and you gotta punish something on block, and sitting down and practicing stuff like that. And I feel like people don't practice that either. It's like a lot of people don't have like the like you said earlier, you got to have a rhythm. You got to have an instant response. You don't have to think about it. Like when you see that, but when that move comes out, it's punishable. Your hand should go, and already be ready for it. But a lot of people they don't practice that aspect of execution. Also, safe jumps, mix-ups, and stuff like that. And like people, they don't think about it stuff that kind of thing and stuff they gotta practice. And so like but it still falls in the realm of execution.
It does. And I'm gonna put myself on blast on this. Um, I have this thing when I like go for a punish in a lot of fighting games, I'll start off with a light, even on like the heaviest of punishes. And that's only because I have this back when I first started in the fighting games, I'm traumatized from when I started with a Fierce Punch in Street Fighter 4. I always would time it wrong. So ever since, like, it's been really weird to me. I've been slowly getting that habit out, but you'll still see it in my gameplay where it's like, oh man, here's the punish, here's a big punish. Starts off with a light. What? But anyway, no, like that's what that does when you have like consistent punishment and like consistent setups, um, consistent, just everything that shows just where your head is at and like with with training mode and how you actually get the most out of it. Um, because that's basically what it is. It's that simple. If you're not getting the full like good setup or they're mashing on you or they're getting out or whatever like that, your stuff is not potent because you haven't simply labbed that out.
Yeah.
And you see in well, a lot of top players when they play online and they lose to something and they want to identify it, either one they'll ask chat, or two they'll do it themselves. Even if they do ask chat, they'll be like, "Wait, chat, I don't think you're. I don't know. Let's see, because I feel like you're. I could get a better response out of the situation, basically." And they'll go in training mode and test that scenario out and basically make it happen. So that's a very, 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 very important part of execution that you are right. Nobody really talks about. It's always combos, combos, combos.
Yeah, it could be like even stuff like, can you hit your frame traps consistently? If your character has like some kind of weird gimmick they do, can you get it out consistently? And it's like stuff like that, and people don't think about it, but I think it's just as important. Like your frame traps, even something like you get knocked down and the game has a low reversal window. Do you know how to time your stuff? Like in Guilty Gear, that's really important. Can you wake up and always consistently get your blitz out there? Because that's harder to put in a buffer system than in like a DP or something, right? So
Yep.
stuff like that, have the character record the character knocking you down and then get up with a blitz and see if you can do it consistently. Because I know I couldn't. Because I would always like, I'm just mashing these buttons and then I would always get hit because I would never get my blitz on the frames that I needed. So like stuff like that is really important, and it's still like again, it kind of falls under execution.
Another thing I want to get across, and Marvel helped me out a lot with this, is mapping your buttons. And I know some people when they map their buttons, they're like, "That's it, that's it. This is how I'm going to play for the rest of the this game's lifespan." And let me tell you that that's not the kind of mindset you want to have ultimately. You want to make sure you're able to like mess around with the game at its full extent. So like mapping your buttons in different ways can help, especially for plinking like stuff.
Yeah,
A lot of people have some. I can't tell you how many times like somebody has a hard time plinking something, and then another player is like, "Well, I have an easier time," and then you just ask both players how their map is, and then the other player is like, "Well, my button is all the way on the other side of the world. That's why I have a hard time plinking." It's like, well, that's why.
nice.
So like,
Yeah,
yeah.
actually, you actually made me think of two players in this area. Like you have Magnegro from Alabama and King Birdie from here up in Atlanta.
Mhm.
They're both Street Fighter 5 players, and they're both like Birdie players, right? But then when they started playing other characters, they have other mappings they'll use. Especially
Yes.
King Birdie, like he switched to Falk, and he's like he just switches his buttons completely because he plays on pad. Especially if you're a pad player, this probably plays out like more than anything.
Yep. And a lot of people don't realize this because Japanese players, we give them their credit. They're really good, have good reactions, all that. But everything that we're talking about today, Japanese players take advantage of. Button mapping, comfortability, like how they sit, like labbing of like situations, or like to make it more comfortable on like punishes and stuff like that, and everything that we talk about, they just have that like that's kind of like second nature for them if you think about it.
Putting in the work on the tedious things, the hard stuff, so you don't have to worry about it later.
Yep. Yeah. So it's very interesting what you can do to a fighting game other than just like actually, I guess, doing the versus part, which is like playing as somebody and then, like getting information from them. That's fun and all. Finding out how characters work is fun, but like breaking the mechanics down with what you have, what stick or whatever you have, where you're sitting at, or how you're sitting. Are you on the ground? You hit the deck. Are you sitting like in some nice gaming chair? Or it's like so many factors can can cause like you to just drop one combo and to lose a game. So you have to make yourself comfortable, and the best way to do that is to go through all these I guess I don't want to say loopholes, but like stuff that people don't really like talk about a lot in terms of like why somebody might lose. Because we talk about when somebody loses, first thing we talk about is like not knowing matchup,
Mm.
or they just got outplayed.
Yeah.
Or if you go back, sometimes it's like, or most of the time actually is, oh man, this person dropped this combo. If you ever played somebody who was like legit just better than you in a fighting game, they drop less combos than you.
Yeah, that tends to be like one of the big points, like especially like when it's like a high level when you're even. It's usually like, they drop the big combo at the end. It's usually something dramatic.
Yeah. Or
It,
not even just combos, kind of like what you were saying earlier, just execution wise, they were able to perform a little bit better than you because like their execution was like on point with that blitz. They blitz right on time. You've played those players, or you've seen players that are like go against a strong player and they're like, man, I didn't get my blitz there, and the other player is not even saying anything because you know why? They got their blitz there.
when you do that string on people over and over again, do you meet that one player who knows like just when to put their DP in so they don't get hit?
Yep.
So it's like stuff like that is like that's a big separator. So let me ask you this, because I guess we kind of hit a lot of the big points. If you had to
It,
say, give me your list of tips, tricks, and stuff that you should do in order to really get your execution from the training mode into actual, battle.
First thing I do is it's so simple, and I know it's going to sound really corny, but moving around the screen. That's very, very, very important because you're not going to be playing somebody who's just going to be sitting there. Even the computer doesn't like just sit there sometimes, depending on like what hard version you play on. But don't even like moving around the screen helps so much. You can do that not just in training mode. You can do that like in maybe some tutorials, arcade mode, all that stuff.
Let me
Just
interrupt you just one time, and I'm sorry.
Mhm.
So he just reminded me of something that Dogi Samus told me a long time ago. Because when Zerd first came out, Sign came out, he goes, he said, I was like, why I have because you remember to unlock Sin you had to get the world dollars.
Yeah.
Yeah, so he's like, why I have so many world dollars? I said, no, why? He goes, you know why my combos are so consistent? I said, no, why? He goes to arcade. He's like, he looks and goes, I go to arcade mode. He goes, yeah, this is where I practice my combos because I just want to
Hmm.
move an opponent. And I was like, I didn't really think about that. Like, you're not trying to beat the CPU, but you're trying to hit consistent stuff on something that's moving in a way you don't expect. And I was like, I never thought about that. And so that's how he hones his execution. Like, you practice it in training mode. It's like the kind of pre-step before you start playing a person, whether online or offline. You just go into training. You go into some kind of CPU mode, like you mentioned. But sorry, I just want to bring that up because that
No,
was a cool
that's
thing.
a good point because that's exactly how I learned how to do Eno's IAD combo in Exarch, because that buffer window used to be a little bit harder when the game first came out, and same here. I was like, I don't want to buy Sin. I'm not rich, or I just don't feel like paying for like no character. So I was like, I'll just play arcade mode and I'll practice my stuff in that. So that's a very, 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 very good like example of doing it.
Word. Let me get you
Oh,
back to your tips now.
another tip is kind of like what we said before. Make sure you play on something that you're comfortable with, but not just playing on something you're comfortable with. Positioning yourself. This goes with like I said, with sitting down, or like when I mean sitting down, like I guess like hitting the deck. We're on actually on the floor. Making sure the stick, because when you're sitting in the lap, the stick is not stable enough. That's why a lot of players, when they want their execution, especially Marvel players, they sit on the ground because Marvel there's a lot of super jumping you got to do. So in order to super jump, you got to hit like that 7, 8, or 9 pretty frequently, consistent, like a lot. You can't really get that sitting in certain ways. So doing that or playing on a desk, I would advise people not to actually do that, but just like make sure yourself comfortable. Whatever feels comfortable to you, but try it out. That's the thing I would say. Try it out because you never know until you try it, right? Um, the third thing I would say is mess around with different characters in different games. That I can't tell you how, like, because what that do that just simply opens your mind to like how fighting games work fundamentally for that character or that game. Simple as that. Um, Fourth, I would say, um, make sure you always practice with what you said, um, said earlier. Make sure not you only not just practicing combos, but defensive stuff. So like if in casuals, sometimes you might want to block on purpose just to see how to like get out of this or see if this button works in this situation. You don't even have to necessarily tell the opponent all the time. That actually makes it even better with training because it's like, all right, cool. Now that they don't know, they're gonna go for it in some like non-traditional probably kind of way. So you're gonna be like, all right, cool. You're gonna try to condition yourself to get ready for it, and that's the best way to learn how to like execution like on the fly, and that helps you out in tournaments, high stake matches, everything like that. When you put yourself in those positions. Three, um, I don't, because I mean, fifth, that's it, not three. Fifth, we're on the fifth one. I'm trying to think, I don't want to make sure, because there's a lot of points that we hit, but I want to
Yeah.
make sure we put on a very important one. I would say the next important one is, yeah, rhythm. I don't think I said that first. Rhythm. I know everybody doesn't have a rhythm, and when they say that, I think they're lying because in my opinion, everybody has a rhythm. It's just finding it. I
Okay.
hate it when people say, "Oh, I don't have rhythm. I don't have rhythm." That's a lie. You have a rhythm. Because you woke up in the morning, you're able to like, do you have a routine. A routine can kind of flow into a rhythm. That's basically a routine. Rhythm is basically a routine, but in like a more repetitive, more flowish kind of way. Kind of ebb and flow. That's the best way I can put it. It ebbs and flows. It goes back
Okay.
and forth. Um, so finding a rhythm. So the best way you find a rhythm is you turn on music and you you blast that shit and you you know play the game. You and but you don't just play the game and just kind of like all right, cool, listen to some good music, whatever. You try to hit like you press the buttons to the rhythm of the music because what that does is once you stop when you're like in a high stakes situation, you have that song in your head. So now in those situations when your timing, it just makes your timing impeccable almost. It's like because the rhythm you have with it. So whether it's combos or like a defensive maneuver or whatever or punishes, now you have that rhythm in your head. And the most important part about doing that is when you play on like other monitors or in lag or anything like that, you'll identify it real quickly because your rhythm is off.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
So yeah. So yeah, those are my 5 tips. I hope they help. And there's a lot more I would say, but those are like the more important ones to me.
The ones that stood out.
Yeah.
I guess if I had a list without jumping all up on yours, I will expand one thing is with the CPU
Mhm.
thing you kind of mentioned, but like when you get into casuals, and you mentioned this a little bit, but when you get into casuals, don't always make it your goal to win. Make it your goal to hit your new combo, to hit your new safe
Mhm.
jump. Because a lot of people like they go and practice and they go, I can't do it, when I play a person, and it's like of course you can't because you haven't practiced. So
Yeah.
practice, using it in situations like you learned the new hit confirm. So now you know what to do when it's on block and what's on hit. Practice that in casuals. That'd be my big thing I mentioned, and it's just an extension of one of yours. I guess the other thing my next thing would be slow down. You don't have to go fast. Focus on accuracy. Focus on getting it right, and then you'll gradually speed it up over time. Don't get discouraged by the combo dropping on the screen, but try to focus on getting it right and seeing it through. And that way, you kind of teach your body and your muscles or whatever to naturally see the combo through, no matter what's happening on the screen, until you get it right. And I guess the next part would be kind of the extension of that is how would I put this? Yeah, just like watch your inputs, like diagnose what you do wrong, and I can't really think. You hit all the big points. I guess the last thing I would do is the chunking thing I mentioned earlier. Break the combo down into little bits and practice
Yeah.
little by little. Get comfortable with it. Get the accuracy going. Yeah, and that's whether for something small or something big. And that's how you get like not only like hard execution, but like those really long combos. People are like, how do you memorize that? Just break it down, do it little by little, and then once you understand the logic, like we mentioned earlier, then you understand how you can just chain long stuff because you know how it works rather than just remembering the whole combo. So you can even throw your little freestyles in there here and there, so that make you feel more comfortable.
Yep.
But
I was gonna say, like, whoever's listening, like, you ever played those players that are like they're playing 10 times faster than you? Every hit they do is like a punish, like, and it hurts. Their defense is like it feels godlike because like they know what to do at the right time. All that stuff. That player is most likely better than you, and the reason why they're better than you is because they're hitting all these points consistently. So,
yeah,
and I still run into these players to this day. So.
yeah. And a lot of people like, I can't break through intermediate, and they think they need some kind of master plan. But when you look at a lot of them play, they don't have the hit confirms on deck. They don't keep the combos consistent. They don't have the safe jumps. They don't have all that stuff all lined up and consistent. And it can be as simple as just like getting in there and fixing your execution, or making it better and consistent, or adding that hard combo that does 30% more damage that you kept putting away because you were too intimidated by it. And that might just be the thing that jumps you, in the intermediate levels closer to where you want to be.
Yep. It helps a lot tremendously to the point where it can get you out of pools and to top 8 and potentially win the whole tournament.
Yep, because like even if you got a game plan, right? If you don't know how to take your hits to where they need to be, then it'll fall apart soon. And I know a lot of people get mad, especially in some of the games today, where you got these combo monsters, and then they don't have any concept of quote unquote neutral. They jump, they do whatever, but when they get the hit, they don't know what to do with it. Even if they're just kind of flailing around, and it frustrates a lot of intermediate players. Because like, man, this guy's an idiot. He just keeps doing jump C, but then when he hits that jump C, he's like, here's your 30% in your mix up. Because they have all that in their muscle memory, even if their decision making isn't good. So like, once you get the good decision making in the execution, you're unstoppable.
Yeah, go one step further than them. They're doing crazy with getting all these hits. Their neutral sucks, but they're getting all these crazy hits and confirming into big damage. Well, go one step further than them. Do the same with the big damage, but also have like practice stuff in neutral. Why does this button work here and stuff like that? So.
That's what'll turn the tables in your favor, depending on the game and stuff. But I mean, that's all I had.
Yeah, I'm also like feeling guilty because this is stuff that I've been like need to be practicing a little bit more too. So yeah.
I think it was Kari or somebody who mentioned a Marlon Potts quote. Just do the combo. Just let your muscles do the combo. Don't fight it. Or whatever
Isn't
it was.
It funny how like every time when you go for something hard in any fighting game, it doesn't matter what it is and what like situation it is, but you go to training mode, you pick your character, you go to stage select, game loads up, you're like, all right, I'm about to do the specific thing that I saw on Twitch on Twitter or Twitch or whatever, and then you do it the first time and you're like, I can't do it no more. What?
Oh man, I'm actually the opposite.
Really?
I'm like I can't do this. But if I can do a combo once, my confidence goes like through the roof. And then
you're thinking too hard about it. When you first initially go in, you're thinking way too hard about it. You're thinking too much about like what you're doing. I, uh, most, well, I don't want to say most, but like I'm the type of player that does like, where I go in, I get it the first time, and I'm like, wait, what? Why? It's because when I see it, I'm thinking about it, like when I first initially see it, like on
Yeah.
whatever like social media platform. But then when I turn it on, I'm like, all right, this character's pretty cool. Let me press this button, do this. Wait, that worked?
Makes sense.
Yeah. So I'm not really thinking too much about like whatever I'm going for. Funny enough, it's don't think, feel.
Hey, man.
That documentary was awesome, by the way. I don't want to like to kind of change the subject up a little bit. If anybody hasn't seen the Be Water 30 for 30 Bruce Lee documentary on ESPN, I would suggest watching it.
I have not seen that, so I might check that out.
You know, especially for FGC members, I would suggest watching it. It really helps a lot.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
you heard the man. Go out there and check out the documentary.
Yeah. But yeah, that's pretty much I got what I have to say.
Yeah, we hit a natural end. So if you've been struggling with execution or you've been wondering why, stuff hasn't been going your way, hopefully this video can help act as a guide, gives you some ideas, and help you move forward. But
Yep.
I got nothing else to say. So any parting words, Casey?
You guys be safe out there. Like I said, keep fighting the good fight. This it, what's going on out in the world is this. Don't let it be a trend. It's not a trend. So it's something that people have to go through every day. So like I said, like keep fighting a good fight, and yeah.
That's right. I guess I'll say more or less the same. Stay safe, and like when you level up in fighting games, level up your life, and just keep fighting, and hopefully better things will come for those who keep fighting.
Yep.
All right. Well, I got nothing else, so I'm gonna say peace.
Peace. Take care, everyone.